Are you stuck in the same old routine at work? Do you find yourself hitting a creative wall, unable to see beyond your current perspective? It's time to break free and unlock the power of fresh perspectives.
David Guthrow back with Discover Fresh Perspectives. And today, let's see what we can discover from Trisha Miltimore. Welcome, Trisha.
Hello, David. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
It is indeed my pleasure. And now, Trisha, you said something that you're passionate about was work-life synergy. So I have no idea who's listening to this podcast. So if you could just say a little bit about, what do you mean by work-life synergy?
Okay, for sure. So work-life synergy for me is the alchemy between who you are, what you want, and how you live your everyday life experience, whether you're at work, at home, because really it's one life, right? It's one experience. I wake up as Trisha. I have lunch as Trisha. I go to bed as Trisha. One would hope. Some days more than others. But so it's the alchemy of those three things. And then within that, finding ways to elevate the work-life experience through our mindsets, our beliefs, and our perspectives. So just slight shifts. So my work with clients and organizations it's not necessarily about transformational change. That feels like overwhelming sometimes. It's truly about the micro shifts we can make that fuel an elevated work-life experience. And so we can have some more fun. That's important.
Now, I hate to stop you, but there may be some people that don't know what alchemy means.
Sure. Well, if you imagine and I am not a science person, so please, just know this. But when you think about the elements of the periodic table of elements, every element's a bit pure and you can put them together. So when you think of the alchemy, it's like looking at taking inventory of your life experience at home, what drives you, what you're passionate about, what you find purpose and meaning from, what is resistance versus momentum, what drives you versus drains you. And then looking at that on the professional side and really extracting from those pieces the things in your life that do provide the most meaning and then amplifying them. So I think it's very easy as we get busy and busier and busier, all of us, right? And it's not a bad thing to be busy, but it's important that we have meaning amongst it, or else we feel just kind of pissed off, kind of tired, and it can become over time very wearing. So the goal is in alchemy is really taking these pieces, elements of our life, putting them together in different ways. I akin it to, if you have some furniture in your living room and it's been that way for maybe 10, 5, 2 years, whatever. And then all of a sudden you get the idea, I'm going to move it around, and you move it around and it works so much better. And you're like, why didn't I do this 6 months ago or a year ago? It's just so much more practical, more efficient, or whatever. Just I enjoy it more. There's value in just enjoying things more. So that's what it is in our own lives. So we take in the pieces we already have and just shifting things around a bit to make it more meaningful and more on purpose and more enjoyable.
So that's very helpful. And now as it applies to you, because I think it'd be helpful to have people have an example of how this actually works. So when you talk about this, an elevator experience and work-life balance and all that sort of thing, how big, this is a fairly broad question, but how big a life do you have?
Oh, meaning like my experience or?
Well, any way you want to interpret that.
Oh, well, I could interpret that many different ways. So my life is pretty full, just like most everybody's. So just to give context, I have 4 children between the ages of 18 and 6. And my oldest is graduating this year, which is very exciting. I have a professional life experience as well. I work as a professional speaker, I'm a management consultant. I have my own coaching programs and whatnot. So I have a full life. But over the years, especially when the children were much younger and I was trying to develop the professional side, it was hard. It was a struggle because I, like many people listening to this podcast right now, probably had have or had in the past some big ideas and goals, like this identity about who they are. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. It was all about you can create it. You just have to think it, go out there and do it. And I always felt this immense pressure on my shoulders, like, okay, I got to make this happen. I got to grind it out. The grit and the resilience. And again, that can be exhausting. Right? And so the alchemy side of it is over the years learning how to, and I do not love this word, but I think it resonates with a lot of people, how to balance, that's not the right word, but I think people know it, how to balance those different sides of my identity, being a mother, a partner, a person who, enjoys health and fitness and a professional. So I think I have I enjoy my life, but in no, is it big? Well, no more than anyone else's, because we all have big lives, right? We're all busy and whatnot. But I have found tools and mindset shifts that have really helped me to enjoy it more. And when I look back in the narrative of my mind of when my kids were younger, which we have to be very careful that we don't retell our stories in ways that drain us. I think back and I wish someone could have told me some of these tools and shared them or taught me them, so that, classic hindsight. So now that's what I do, is I get to teach them. So hopefully other people can have slight shifts as well. So yeah. So to answer your question, I think I have a big life. I'm at the rink all the time. I live at the rink. That's my big life.
Well,
Yeah.
and there's so many different sports I know that can consume people. So, hockey, soccer, all those kinds of things. And I do know some people that had their big plans for their career, and then a child comes along and, it almost seems like they resent it. So, what tools do you use so that they fit into your life? So rather than being a parent is apart from your life and your alchemy, that you actually embrace that. And because you've had to do it numerous times, and some people, just one person throws them off their game. What are some of the tools that you use?
Well, the first baby definitely throws you off the game the most. But I actually remember being pregnant with my first. And so at the time I was running a music store. So my family has music stores. We manufacture guitars. And I opened up my own brick and mortar store. And I told my staff when I was 9 months pregnant, I'm like, listen, I'm going to go and have this baby. And then I'll be back in about 2 weeks, and don't worry, nothing's going to change, because the baby's going to follow my schedule, because I'm the parent. Like, these are real thoughts I had in my brain, real thoughts. Anyways, did I go back in 2 weeks? No, that baby was colic, still trauma, still working through those feelings. But anyways, so some of the tools that I have learned over the years, and this was probably one of the very first ones I learned, and I still teach it to this day, is to move the goalposts. Because for me, I was like, I'm going to be a speaker, and I'm going to be a trainer, and I'm going to do all these things, and then have a store and build the retail business. And really, I remember sitting on the floor and bawling, crying, like genuinely with such deep disappointment and frustration, because I was not moving towards any goals. And this baby was just sitting there crying all the time too. Like, terrible. I wouldn't even say it's colic, just her temperament, to this day. But so there she was crying. There I am crying, because no one had said to me, listen, this too shall pass. And I think that's really important perspective, that it's, and you gain that through the years, of course, but that every era of your life is a phenomenon, and it is evolving and changing all the time. And so if I had someone who was just helping to coach me through that and sharing the tool of move the goalpost. So move the goalpost. There's no failure in that. Look at your resources and capacity. It's like a very common thing in management consulting. What is the capacity of the organization? Well, I'm the organization, and my capacity is 0 when I have a colicky baby. And so having a really grace for self. So that's one of the tools, is move the goalpost when you need to. Mm-hmm.
And some people would resent that and feel that was kind of caving in, but it sounds like it's a really positive strategy to use. And with 4 children, you've had to do that numerous times.
Yeah, many, many times. Yeah. And I think it's true for, like, I see it with my clients, maybe you have aging parents that you're taking care of, or maybe you're at a point in your career where you're feeling like you need to make a change. So you pivot and you start something totally new. So these are eras in our lives where we do have to continually adapt. And that resiliency and adaptability is so important. And I think it's underrated. that we forget how adaptable we are because we get really stuck kind of in our ways of thinking. And you know where we get most stuck? And where I think it causes people the most grief and frustration in life is our identity. We get stuck in our identity. Who am I? What am I? Especially as professionals, like this is my identity. And if I shift or I change, what are people going to think? What are people going to think is one of the main vultures I see as pecking away at your possibility and potential. Yeah. So we're always evolving. I agree.
Well, and it sounds like, oftentimes that's an either or when we talk about identity. Either I am a good parent or I am a good speaker or I am. And it's like you have to make a choice when in fact what I'm hearing is you don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a constant sense of rebalancing so that things work and so that things fit. And so that, again, going back to a term that you used earlier, you have an elevated life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? And just making slight tweaks every now and then. Continually slight tweaks. Self-awareness is a big part of it.
Okay. And so I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm trying to picture, like, do you have a master calendar on your wall that, like, for the year traces out everything, every hockey practice, every keynote, or is it in your DNA and you somehow find a way to do that naturally?
I am figuring stuff out as I go, but I can say I would not describe myself as an organized person. In fact, in my books, if I don't forget a kid somewhere, I'm doing pretty good. I'm giving myself major kudos for that. But I do have certain tools. Like I use an app called Cozy for our family calendars, and all the team calendars go in there. And then I have my professional work that is in a different calendar, because if you mix those two, that's just craziness. But no, I don't have everything mapped out. I would say I'm season by season. Mm-hmm. In life and in sports, really. Figuring it out as I go.
Well, and you said in my books, and I realized that was in your books in your head, but do you actually have books?
Books. Where did I say books?
Or a book? Or several copies of the same book?
An app. Cozy.
An app? You have an app? Okay. So let's make sure we put that in the program notes so people can access that later, if that's okay.
It's a great app. Yeah. And it really helps for me to stay organized for where we need to go, as long as all the family members use it, David, which they don't. But anyways, for the most part, most of the activities are in there for sure. Yeah. So Cozy app is great. Highly recommend. I think it's Canadian, actually.
Okay. Also, it's not actually one that you developed yourself.
Oh, goodness, no.
Okay.
That's a level of skill I do not have. No.
So, Trisha, what, if anything, do you think people get wrong about the concept of work-life balance or work-life synergy, however you choose to define it?
I think people get stuck in the idea that it has to feel like you're in control. And I just don't think we have control that way. We only have control of our inputs. We don't have control of the results. And so when we put too much energy into the control side of things, I think we take away from the potential and possibility. And, so I teach a concept of playing in the gaps where, there's so many times in my schedule just changes. When you have young kids, changing all the time because their sleep schedule is changing all the time, and you learn adaptability. I think it's one of the greatest skill sets. When we're hiring people, and I know they have, multiple children, I know that they have that adaptability skill set, right? That flexibility, but we get stuck in the idea that we have any kind of control. We have a little bit, but not really. So that adaptability again comes up. But if we release this idea that we have to be in control of things, then we can play in the gaps more. So where I was going with that is, like, there's many times where all of a sudden, like yesterday, the game got pushed ahead. So the practice was an hour later. Well, I'm sitting in the arena for 45 extra minutes thinking, what am I going to do with myself? And, you can get kind of annoyed, and I got things to do. But it's like, you got to kind of roll with it. I like to imagine myself, I'm a round tennis ball instead of a heavy, medicine ball, because with a tennis ball kind of just bounces with the day, right? So playing in the gaps, meaning I'm just finding things to do in those gaps that have meaning to me. I might go for a walk, I'll listen to the air, the breeze, talk to someone, just being that on the fly flexibility versus a medicine ball where you throw it down and it kind of sits there, right? So having that lightness about life. So I think with work-life balance, it's just coming at life with a sense of lightness and releasing a lot of the expectations that weigh us down.
I think that's a great metaphor. And one of the things I like about it in particular is that there's no such thing as wasted time. So I don't know if that's what you talk about when you talk about filling the gaps, but I've got this time. Now, how can I make the best of it as opposed to just sitting there grumbling because you have to wait for something that didn't occur according to your expectations?
Yeah, 100%, right? Because time is time and we're just lucky to have it. We really are, If anyone's lost someone or someone is sick, when you're healthy and you got time, it sounds cheesy, but it's a gift. Might as well use it. Even if it's sitting down and watching your favorite Netflix show for 15 minutes when you couldn't otherwise, enjoy it.
Exactly. That's a choice. Now, what you said made me think of, I was working with an Aikido master many, many years ago in Colorado, and he was talking about, like, had everyone standing, still as long as they could. And then once you started the wobble, he said, okay, well, just step and get solid again. And just so you're constantly moving from one point of balance to another point of balance. So it wasn't permanent. And it was just such a wonderful image. Like, this isn't working for you. Take a step forward, take a step back physically. But I can see metaphorically that would also work quite well.
Oh, yeah. That's really cool. I like that. I might steal it, David. No,
it's yours. It's yours. It's yours.
I love it.
So, Trisha, what are some other lessons about work-life synergy that perhaps you wish you'd learned? This is a question I'd like to use in a lot of different contexts. But what's some other lessons that you wish you learned earlier or less painfully? So not something you got out of a book. This comes from your personal experience. Mm-hmm. Are some other ones that come to mind?
Yeah, one of my main ones. And it's such a core value for me at this point that maybe I'd even get a tattoo of it. Like, it's this level deep. I said I was going to get a tattoo when I was 40. I'm turning 45. I haven't yet. I'm surprised I'm married with kids. Commitment is not my thing. But this core value is something, again, I've been teaching for a long time, but it came from my own experiences and here's the lesson. Life doesn't have to be so hard. And there's so many ways, including like our connection to our identities, how we live and breathe, our expectations of ourselves, of others. But life doesn't have to be so hard. And where I learned that lesson, a quick story was this is many, many years ago, speaking somewhere. I remember my kids were very young. I remember feeling kind of bad not bad, but pressure of being there and all that stuff. Anyways, so much easier now that they're older. And it was in between sessions, and a lady was making some tea at the conference coffee and tea area. And I was there too. And she was chatting with me. And she said, as she was stirring her tea, she started telling me about her life experience. And her life experience was traumatic, horrific, things that she has gone through that I cannot even imagine living through. And I'm stirring my tea and I'm like, oh my gosh. And she's sharing her story. And then she said something that really struck a chord with me. She said, you know what I've learned through all of this is that life doesn't have to be so hard. Mm. And I was like, I was resistant to the wisdom that was being shared with me, because I was like, life doesn't have to be so hard. Like in my brain, after she told me all this trauma that she's been through, that she's triumphed from, not, lived through, I guess is the better word. I was like, life doesn't have to be so hard. Well, do you run 2 businesses? Do you have like 3 kids under the age of 5? Do you have to make peanut-free lunches? Like, these are the things going through my head. I'm like, shut up, Trisha, in your brain, And whatever reason, it struck a chord, it hit a nerve. And as I marinated in her wisdom, it really soaked in, because I realized that much of how I approached life was that it is hard. And, so much comes from our childhood and how we were raised. And I was raised, again, in an entrepreneurial environment, and it was always a struggle at the time, always, always tough. And I never went without food, but I always knew when business was bad, because my Italian mother, her emotions are right there. And And, we would have like a little bit less food in the house and they wouldn't go shop as often and stuff like that. And I never went without, but I always knew, and the stress, the feeling. And so what I was taught was you can achieve anything, but you're going to have to sacrifice and it's going to be hard. And so I approached life that way, right? And I didn't know I was approaching life that way. I didn't know that was the theme, the song playing in the background until that woman said something and it really struck a chord. We only hear what we're ready to listen to, right? Anyway, so that's one of the biggest lessons of work-life balance or synergy for me. It's something I like to share with a lot of people because in what ways are you making life harder than it needs to be? And I think we do it often. It's kind of a human nature thing.
Well, and sometimes it's almost like a contest when you get together with other people about just how hard is your life.
Yeah.
For me, you have no idea all the things I have to do. Like it's a contest to be won, and how debilitating that can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And life is a struggle. Like it's not meant to be easy, I don't think, but it's definitely meant to be joyful, even amongst the sadness and pain.
Yep. Totally agree. There's one thing, and I've probably said this in some other podcasts, so people are probably going to be going, oh, no, there he goes again with that. But one of the things that I've been trying to tell myself, no matter what the circumstances are, is just say, I can work with that. Before I decide if I like it or don't like it or know how to deal with it, I avoid that amygdala hijack that puts me in a fight, flight, flow response, whatever, and say, I can work with that. And I imagine pointing to it. I can work with that. So, so I can work with the PowerPoint not working. I can work with the PowerPoint going out. I can work with, and I've used this example before, when I've had to cut down blackberry bushes, to whom I have given more blood than I give to Canadian Blood Services. And, I see this massive stuff. And before I start to go about, oh, not going to get through it, all this sort of stuff, I cut that off before that amygdala hijack go, I can work with that and mean it. And so, head into the blackberry bushes and I can work with this. And it gives me a sense of agency or effectiveness. So, whether I want to deal with it, that's a separate question. But to start with, I can work with that.
Yeah.
Right? And it just frees me up from so much stress because I start from a point of where I'm not a victim of circumstances that are happening to me that I would not have chosen under other circumstances.
Yeah.
Right? So I can work with that. I can work with that. And it's just like, what made me think about it was that all those things that happen to you, yes, life is tough, but you don't have to make it tougher than it is. You don't have to add that extra little bit to it. And to remember that being joyful and doing whatever you're doing is so important to you. And you obviously, show that every time I've seen you, for sure.
Oh, no, that's good. You got me on a good day. No.
Oh, yeah.
I think I approached life. I try to. I mean, this is the work we do, so we're continually reminded about, which is a gift. But I think I approach most things in life with that kind of mindset that there could be joy found in it. It doesn't mean it's always easy by any stretch of the imagination. But what I love about the idea of I can work with that is that it's really about connecting with the sense of momentum over that resistance. And I think the resistance we face is just, for some people, it feels insurmountable because of the challenges and traumas they've endured, but it is a choice. As much as people don't want to hear that, it's a choice, that agency side. You know what else helps? I have this. I want to show it to you. I have this fake plant. I have this plant behind me is real. I just want people to know. I've been keeping it alive for a couple of years now. But I have this one on my desk. I don't know if you can see this. It says, I will survive.
So for those that given that this is an audio podcast, it is a fake plant, and it does say I will survive on it, and it's a very cool plant.
Yes, so I have this I will survive reminder on my desk at all times, and no matter what's happening and how much pressure I might feel or worry I might have, because it can be on the personal or professional side. I got this thing saying I will survive, and what else matters at the end of the day? Fail, succeed. Halfway, I don't know, but I'll survive. I'll get through it. Hopefully.
One thing, and another thing I like about the plant, it's kind of prickly, right? And sometimes life is a little bit prickly, and I can survive. I love it.
I like that element too. I'm
going to grow one myself.
Yes, the plastic plant. It's very hardy, very hardy.
Very good. And so I'll just, just because I want to mine every bit of gold out of you that I can, any other lessons learned? And maybe, sometimes it's the things we take for granted that other people see in us more clear than we see in ourselves. Things about, maintaining a sense of being up in that joy and being able to handle whatever life throws at us.
That's a good question. I have this image in my office behind me. You can't see it. And obviously there's audio too, now that I'm reminded. Thank you for that. But I have this picture I found on, of all places, Amazon, and it's a squirrel holding a coffee cup. I don't drink coffee, I drink tea. But for many, many years, I thought that my inclination as a creative to create things and not finish them. So I come up with ideas, I go gangbusters on it, and I'm just like, this is so aligned and, meaningful. And I get pretty far, and then something else comes up, or I adjust, or whatever the case may be. So for many, many years, I had this narrative. You'll hear me say that word 1,000 times because I think it's the most powerful way of describing thought patterns. I had this narrative that I just can't follow through on anything. And I'm not as successful as I could be because of that. And then I was listening, and I'm pretty sure it was Drew Dudley. If you're familiar, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Drew Dudley or not. Yeah, right. I would imagine you are. Anyways, fabulous speaker, thought leader. Day One Leadership is his book. And I don't know if we were chatting at an event one time or if it was in his book. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it was Drew. And the conversation was around your relationship you have with your process, your creative process, or with the work that you've done. And so what it tweaked, and again, it's all about these little subtle tweaks that make such big differences in how we approach things, is I realized that that's my process. I'm creative. I start things. I learn from that experience, and then I move forward. And not finishing certain things doesn't mean I failed. It means I have moved on to the next level. And so that little thought change helped me to A, not be so hard on myself, and B, to see the progress. It's not start and stop. It's start, learn, grow. Anyway, so back to the squirrel image. The squirrel image, for many years represented that I was just like all over the place, but now I see it as a superpower of being able to invest, learn, grow, and then elevate and continue moving on. So it's slightly different narrative, but way more empowering, way more empowering.
Isn't it nice when you look in the mirror in the morning and you see and get that sense rather than the sense that how you're not, it's how you are and what the value is? Like, look in the mirror and go, that is one very cool, creative person.
Yeah.
And everything she does is intentional and works really well for her. Even just, to start with that, I think that's very cool. Yeah. I'd love to see the squirrel sometime.
Okay. I'll send you a picture.
Okay, that'd be great.
I love it. I look at it all the time. I'm like, how you doing? Yeah, I see you.
That is great. That is great. Trisha, it's been so nice to have some time with you. I really wish this is the longest we've ever spent together, like in meetings and things like that. It's kind of boom, 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 a second here, a second there. But I've really appreciated this and always learned something as I have from you. So thank you so much for being here with me today and offering some diverse perspectives.
Oh, thank you. It's been fun. I'll send you that squirrel picture. Thanks, David.
Look forward to it. So David Guthrow, Discover Fresh Perspectives.
Subscribe now, because on Fresh Perspectives, every episode is an opportunity to explore new horizons and redefine what's achievable.